Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to our coverage of the Galaxy Cup. And I swore to myself after the last less than perfect intro and outro on the previous cast that I was going to do my utmost to get it right. Seriously, something about this tournament, it's jinxing me for the peripherals of the way it works. First, I forget to mute the in-game, my little intro movie holding screens while we flip between videos. Then, on the last one, I mute the the in-game, the video sound instead of my mic on the start, and then at the end I completely screw up the see you later routine, the outgoings, if you will. I'm going to do my best to not act like a prat today. Hopefully, I could be getting something wrong right now actually and not even realise it. I've also tweaked the levels, if you will, just a little bit. Few people, actually one person, but I take it to heart, was saying that I was a little bit quiet, or at least the videos were a little bit quiet, so I've cranked it a bit. I'm trying to be cautious because I don't want it to start clipping when I get all excited, as we know happens from time to time. So bear with me, feedback always welcome. Alright, what are we doing today? It is the end of Q3. It's the semi-final and final of the Galaxy Cup from qualifying 3. This will determine, the people who get into the finals will both qualify for the grand finals, but it's about winning and losing the group, a bit like you will in the World Cup. The winner will get the easier first few matches, or match, if you will, going forward. So it's a big incentive to try and come away with the win, but even if you make it into the final and you don't manage to pull off the win, you're still in with a shot. First game is going to be a semi-final between Nexus and Uber Yuzhao, and it's going to take place on Certis Major. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on a ka-ching. And we wait for good old-fashioned OBS to catch up. There it goes. Let's take a look at our players' glorious Sarah and glorious openings. We shall check them all out in good time. First of all, Nexus going his very customary UEF. How very sensible in his very customary fecal brown. Someone was trying to tell me that this was autumn. What was it in the comment section? Autumn bronze or something. It's like, dude, no. As I said in that video, I am not coming trudging through the autumnal leaves in your garden. Thank you very much if you think that's what it looks like. It's probably full of dog turds. There he is, and he's opening first land, and his opponent over here, over in the east, going mellow yellow, going Seraphim. It's Uber Yuzhao, and he's opened first land as well. Will I get it right first time? No, I won't. Every time I hit the wrong key for split screen. You would think, after how many years have I been doing this now? Since 2011 or 2012 or something. 6 or 7 years, you'd think I'd have it down, but those of you who wonder why I can't play the actual game, that is why I still can't work out the difference between 2 keys in 7 years. It's awful. So where do we go here? So Uber Yuzhao first land, then went straight for Hydro. None of this faffing around with T1 P-Gens. That all comes later. The engineers go and pick up the other 2 mexes. So it's like Land Factory, 2 mexes, boom. First engineer out starts the Hydro. He assists with the comm. Nexus, little bit of deviation, more or less the same though. He's stuck 1 P-Gen in there for good measure. So he's just taking things with a little bit more precaution there. And he finishes the Hydro, throws down another P-Gen, picked up 2 mass extractors. One of the engineers picked up the other 2, and then goes on to expand. And the second factory after the 2 T1 P-Gens is going to be an air factory. Second air factory, or second factory for Uber Yuzhao, will also be an air factory as well. So pretty similar openings. He's going to get 3 T1 P-Gens. So I mean, it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Nexus got that out of a 3rd P-Gen right at the beginning. Uber Yuzhao just waited to get the Hydro online before he did it first. Otherwise, these guys are pretty much identical. Uber Yuzhao goes towards the cliff, as does Nexus with the comm. Distance build up, 2 T1 land factories. Oh my gosh, the meta. They're so consistent, I can taste it in the back of my throat. So here we go. 1, 2 apiece. And otherwise, it's all very standard. We can afford to crank it up once or twice. I have got team games coming up, incidentally, guys, while we wait for these guys to get going. I know you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be trying to stay on course for 1 cast a week. I'd like to increase it later on. Next week or 2 is going to be difficult. Summer holidays and all that, I'm sure you understand. The wife is going to get me to go camping, and I have months to try and figure out a way to get out of it, and I haven't managed it yet. But this is how much she thinks of you guys. She is letting me come home, drive home from the campsite, which is about 45 minutes away, to come and do a cast for you guys. So I'm going to get an afternoon of work in just to come and cast for you guys. I hope you guys appreciate what that woman puts up with. Secretly, I'm just thrilled to not be camping for an afternoon. Not that I don't want to spend it with you guys, even though spending it with you guys is me talking to myself in my world. You're sort of with me in spirit, more or less. Engineer on the plateau getting gunned down by Uber before Nexus catches up with 3 of his T1 tanks. A little bit of a run by in the south. This is the period of time where they try and pick up as many engineer kills as they can, try to scupper expansions into these redundant starting locations. And that's pretty good scuppering right there from Uber. Takes down that engineer, cancels a few mass fabs, sorry, not mass fabs, mass extractors in a land factory or 2. Lots of interceptors covering this portion of the map for Nexus. About 3 apiece, actually, on both sides of the map. And both of these guys pulling their commander, coming through the other aperture, not the aperture that's close to their base, but the next one down. Nexus a little bit further behind, although I don't think he's going up there. I think he's going to use that con to carry on construction of mexes in the like down there, which was killed by this little run-by over here. Uber Yuzhao doesn't have quite so much to worry about. His expansion's still on course with engineers. Attempt at run by there from Nexus gets picked off by Uber's com, but Uber not moving forward. He's going to stand guard. He might have taken the opportunity to expand out here, maybe try and grab the initiative at the northern pass, but alas, not to be. Selen, cloak engaged, going to be providing good intel on that portion of the map. It's actually a great opportunity for Seraphim to just litter this side of the map early on with lots of cloaky, naughty, giving you some great intel. Not something I've seen employed to any great deal from anyone, though. Nexus blapping Thams with his com. No more cheeky run-bys completed. Both players grabbing a plateau each. Uber Yuzhao taking the south, Nexus grabbing the north. Still think Uber Yuzhao could afford to be a little bit more aggressive with his com, having sealed that breach. But then it's easy for us to say when we've got full vision. These guys never know what's going on. He might have already missed a run-by that could be in the back somewhere. So he was just playing the percentages. Not a particularly unsensible thing to do. Perfectly understandable. Let's take a look at eco. And reclaim-wise, you can see 4.4k to 1.9k in favor of Uber, so he's definitely had the better run there. And in terms of generated eco, Uber up a good number of points there. Jostling between the two, but around 12 points or so, 12 mass per tick. Engineer drop over here, so I expected Nexus to come down here and complete some of the stuff over here with his commander. He actually lost that mex at some point since we last checked in at this position, but no, needs his comm up here to help plug the gap. Instead, airlifts a couple more NGs in to get that done. Zui's to the center, going to work on the defensive emplacements, the neutrals in the middle. Lots of mass, remember, to be reclaimed here. Why you can't see the building reclaim value. Oh, you can see the wrecks, right? Yeah, so it's 180 mass right there for destroying that flak battery. Taking a lot of unnecessary damage from that eruptor. Not sure why he's standing there eating it. Completely unnecessary. He's lost about 2.5k there while he reclaims the Quantum Gateway. Nexus nowhere to be seen on this central section. There it goes. It's 2,500 mass up for grabs. And in fact, a lot of that mass is dissipated thanks to the incoming Zui shell. So there's a lot to be said for not killing off the Quantum Gateway with your artillery because, of course, the delay it takes for those shells to land. Looks like he killed a good 1,000 mass there, which he wouldn't have access to. Strikers move in against the Thams, and their Thams are heavily outnumbered, assisted by Lobos as well, making short work of these Seraphim forces up the top. Engagement on the plateau going better this time for Uber. Selen down there has actually moved slightly, I think. A little bit further over, maybe picked off an engineer that was on reclaim and then recloaked. T1 bomber in over the top, lots of potential civilian casualties with a well-placed bomb down there, but no, he's sticking with troops on the ridge. Uber going for the T2 upgrade on the commander. He's actually backed out away from the center. You can see it's about 100 mass per civilian building up here, so significantly less than the Quantum Gateway. Let's have a look at reclaim figures once again. 12k for Uber versus more or less 7k there for Nexus. 57 mass per tick. Total mass accrued, about a 6k advantage over the course of the game for Uber. Once again, T1 forces up on the ridge up north. Tangle. Major win for either side. 60% done on the T2 upgrade on the comm there for Uber. There's Nexus. He's moved out of the middle. There's still 2, 3, that's 600 mass there, civilian buildings. Engineer just going about his reclaim business, waiting for the inevitable. Looks like he's been hit once or twice already by something, unlikely to be an artillery piece. Taking them out a while ago. Oh, must be part cat, the amount of lives he seems to have spare. Forward comes Uber up at the northern aperture. Looked like it was going pretty badly at first, but a heavy contingent of Zuis in the mix there. Gives you a bit of a lag time on that fire up against the static formation. Goes badly initially and then starts to do rather well as they pull out. Ilsheva in the mix, so Uber Yuzhao up to T2 land. T2 land there as well for Nexus. More or less on 12 minutes now, and decent contingent of pillars joining the front down at the southern aperture. T2 on the way for Nexus's commander. Nice forward reinforcement point up here, which is upgraded to T2 and already spitting out T2 tanks. Awesome little unit. The Ilsheva. Reminds me of the aliens, the evil, bloodthirsty nocturnal aliens in Pitch Black. Anyone else see that reference there? I'm sure that's what they had in mind at GPG when they decided. Nexus has actually leapfrogged Uber in terms of eco. It's about a 10 mass differential now. Still 6k mass behind in total mass accrued. Conflict's going well for him up north though. Little band of T1 remains. He's smacking it down with a platoon of pillars. And Uber Yuzhao down at the bottom, marching forward with his commander. He's got gun upgrade, he's got T2 on there. Has access to overcharge. Going all out aggression here. Nexus hurriedly constructing defenses further back, place to withdraw to. More forces rolling in from the main base in the north. But he's leading a massive charge here with his comm right out in front, Ramboing it all the way. Nexus has pulled his commander, and he's got the Zephamp gun upgrade and T2 as well. Similarly matched commanders here. Charges being exchanged. Before the comms open up on one another, it's damage versus rate of fire. Yuzhao starting to back up, needs to be very careful not to get hung up on his own forces. Nexus eating a lot of Zui fire there, drops down into the yellow, 10.5k hit points left on him. Interceptors for Nexus buzzing over the top. But where did this little contingent come from? Was that part of the main breach that split off? It certainly annihilated this base over here. Nothing left except for one Hydro and one T1 mass extractor. Nexus starts to wheel south to deal with that. Uber says, I'm not done yet, comes back in through the canyon ramp. Loving this gutsy offensive play here in the semi from Uber. Remember, he's playing a guy who's got 200 higher global ranking than he does. Another factory down over here thanks to the Zui fire. Takes out a partially constructed triad further up. Meanwhile, up at the top, Uber taking this opportunity to make gains against a potentially weakened position as Nexus funnels all of his resources into defending this assault. Nexus down below 50% health, down about 7.5k. Uber Yuzhao has taken damage though, also he's around about 10k. Zone engineers are hastily constructing T1 PDs, but might have been a little bit far forward. Uber Yuzhao zapped one of the forward pillars with his overcharge. He desperately wants to hold this tide of UEF forces back so he can get some PDs online, but it's not going to be enough. Those tanks mingling with his own forces now, and then going to prioritize the engineers. Goodbye, and now Uber Yuzhao is in full retreat and all by his lonesome. Another position back here just gets started, but that's too late. Engineer won't be completing that as the Lobo shells rain down upon him and the structure he was working on, but more Seraphim forces coming in through the open center gap now, and this will cut Nexus off and persuade him to push back up towards the middle. Uber Yuzhao with a clever bit of rerouting buys himself a bit of a reprieve. Nexus was running low on forces anyway, has to move back to the center to consolidate. But still, another contingent over here. Are they being airlifted in? Is that what we're saying? 5 T1 engineers dropped at this starting location. Merry little band of T1 and T2. We've got an Ioshiva in there, some flak to defend against the air, and about 4 or 5 Ilshivas for a bit of punching power on the ground, holding these forces at bay. And at the moment, these engineers are reclaiming. Wouldn't have been a bad idea to try and set up shop with some defenses first of all. Maybe he didn't think he could hold it against the Lobos anyway. He's just out for what he can get reclaim wise and potentially mechs wise. This could be interesting. More forces rushing in through the center instead of joining the fight down here, going for the other aperture near the main base. Nexus redirects. Try and cut that off. Engineers down here for Uber have died out. but we see a counter push up at the top. Nexus looking strong. Lots and lots of pillars here. 13 of them alive currently. Needs to keep them on the move, preferably jostling a bit more than they are to avoid some of this incoming artillery fire. Looks like this top position might be about to change hands or at least be destroyed. It's all T1 though. Uber won't be too upset about it. Uber getting an upgrade. What is it? Tactical missile upgrade. Interesting. Expensive, but interesting. That last push we saw come through the center is still alive, albeit heavily weakened. Ilshiva splits off to try and draw some fire. Lots of engineers gonna take some fire up here now. T1 PD battling to keep them alive. No target prioritization on the point defense, however. And attack missile upgrade complete on Uber. So you're going to fire straight away. You can see the orange bar going up there. He's got a missile loaded. Overcharge in, picks off a couple of pillars. Missile away. Heading towards the main base. Another missile away. Buzzkill already under construction. Going straight for a T2 P-Gen right at the back. That gets taken out. Nexus breaking even now on power. This next one could really hurt him if it connects. Oh, fortunately for him, hits the factory. That really would have caused some problems had that taken out that other T2 P-Gen. There is another missile inbound, but Buzzkill constructed in the nick of time. Which makes that quite an expensive upgrade, which is going to be of less use now. Indeed, that missile did get shot down. Nexus right on the power bread line. Very fine eco balance. Ooh, hello. Squadron of Vulthus brought in. Gunships ready to pick off some of these mexes. Not a lot going on in terms of interceptor support from Nexus. He's taken the foot off the gas on air production. Look at the amount of yellow interceptors we have here for Uber. Baiting Nexus's interceptors to come and engage. Nexus not biting. Engineers furiously trying to get some railguns online. They are dealt with pretty swiftly. Uber under sustained assault now, though. This is a big push coming in from Nexus. There are 3 T2 PDs, though, and a T1 over here. And he realizes the danger he's in and backs out. He's going to take more casualties as he runs away. Vulthus brought in. What have we got in terms of anti-air? Not a great deal. Attack missiles coming out all the time. Nexus is in a bit of trouble here. Triad down over here. Vulthus heading in towards the comm. Floating 10k mass for ages. Where's the support? Nexus says feels good. Oh, wow. Okay, that was a Control K, I think. Yep. Nexus saw no way out of that one. Oh, and look at that. There was a drop with 3 Othams coming in the back. Wow. Did he just get run over, or was it me? So, T3 land headquarters for Nexus was operational. I'm not seeing any T3 units in play yet for Nexus, so they would have been woefully ill-equipped to deal with those siege tanks. You just would have tore him a proverbial new one. Very well played indeed for Uber, who then drops down into... Uber then goes through. It's Nexus who drops down into the losers bracket and then has another game against Blodir, I believe, and I don't have that game, I'm afraid. That's the final of the losers bracket. And then, would you believe it, he beats Blodir to come and meet Uber Yusao in the final. And unfortunately, this is where it gets a little bit annoying. Game 1 of the final was on Settons, and I don't have it. The replay that I got sent by Rowie was corrupted. I haven't been able to get hold of either of the two, of Nexus or Uber, yet to get a copy of their replay, see if their local copy is functional. That's one of the glorious things about FAF. Unfortunately, we still haven't sorted out the corruption and the debug issues on the replays. I still pray that one day it will be, but alas, not yet. So, and interestingly enough, that first game on Settons, that was a draw. So it's basically 0-0 or 1-1, depending on how you look at it. How you want to, let's call it 0-0, if you will, in game 1 of the final of Q3. So we go to game 2, which is actually on the ditch, which will load eventually, and here it is. So it's Uber Yuzhao and Nexus, second game in, they're level, and this is where we're at. So we'll check the openings, the glorious openings, after we check out their starting locations. Uber Yuzhao down here, going Cybern this time, mixing it up, probably slipped, bless him. Still going mellow yellow, and this time opening first land, and there is a Hydro over here, but well, interesting. So he had a bajillion T1 P-Gens queued up, and then thought, nah, and then queued up 3, and then queued up a bajillion once again. So we'll come back and see if he's sorted his life out in just a second after we take a look at what Nexus is doing over here in the east, who's also going Cybern, bless him. There must be something going around, some kind of awful, horrendous bacterial wasting disease that starts with the brain and moves on to the genitals. And so he's going Cybern and Fecal Brown. It's a good day there for Nexus. Opening first land, going second air, and again going T1 P-Gen all day. So that would be the... I did it! First time I struck the right key, the home key. You know what the problem is? Home makes you think that actually that should be returning to something. You return home. You don't go to home. You typically start at home and you return home. So why should home be the intermediate split screen? I don't know. It's wrong. But there it is. Both of these guys. Interesting to see how many we get here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13 there for Nexus. This is 13 for Uber. I think I'm going to have some kittens. 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 14, 15. So no, slightly more P-Gens queued up for him. We don't actually have a second factory landed yet on the queue. Oh, I might have spoken too soon. He's forever rearranging his setup here. So he is going for a second air fac. It's going to be 6. It's going to be plus 8. It's going to be 14, 15, 16. So I don't really get the point. He clearly didn't like the configuration, the way they were laid out. Although, arguably, he's just made himself slightly more vulnerable to air attack now that he's condensed his P-Gen layout even more. So I'm not really sure what the purpose was that. Maybe it was just an aesthetics thing. I know how some of these guys get about the looks for their bases. Early T1 Engineer out straight for the Hydro, but not the first ones. I think it's fair to say the majority of the first ones are assisting in the construction of the T1 P-Gens there. He's actually going second land, third air. And whether or not he means that to go in that order or not, that's just an afterthought, because the engineer started working on it and he's queued up the air factory with the comm. Who can say? But certainly factory number 2 for Nexus is the air factory. He's queued up another air factory next to the Hydro as well. No such information yet out from Uber. We have got a radar out. That's a pretty good place for it, as you would say. Incoming would come from that direction. Can afford to bump it up to +3 or +4 around there. Not sure what the RIP is about. I think it might be down to the fact, if you look in chat, I don't think I ever played the ditch. So Uber Yuzhao not confident in game 2 here, which is fair enough. can't be easy when you start out. And he's certainly pretty consistent with Nexus's opening, so he might not have played it, but he's not doing anything wrong if Nexus is anything to go by. Wow, look at the commitment to the air game, though, from Nexus. That's 4 airfacts around the Hydro and another one at the main base. Also, Skyhook airlifting 5 engineers, it looks like, down to the 6 o'clock position. Very important you pick up these other starting locations as quickly as possible. It's quite a big map. It's a 20 by 20. The ditch. Skyhook out as well for Nexus, going for that 12 o'clock position. Oh, let's just temporarily want to hide that. Do you mind? I might open it up again later, but the thing is with a ditch is these corner sections often not much use in the other maps around there, but this is such a crucial through route on either side of the map. It does make it handy to be able to see. But who knows? Perhaps we will come back to it in just a second. Bombers out there for Uber, or at least one of them. Lots of scouts taking a look at what's going on for Nexus over the top of Uber's base. One Inti out for Uber. Quite a few more Intis out for Nexus, so we'll see if this massive air push early on comes to any great benefit for Nexus. That's the one thing I do remember about the ditch, certainly in a one-on-one. It takes a long time for the game to warm up. There's so much space to expand into, so many starting locations. Well, there's 2 extra starting locations, but so many extra mass points. This large, broad river or puddle that runs through the middle, causing and impeding your troops as they try to find a way to engage. Another Skyhook out for Nexus. Where's that heading? That looks like it's coming across. It's making a play for the bottom right-hand corner with 2 NGs? 3 NGs on left on board. He's dropped off the other 3 over here. Lots of land factories on the way. T1 bomber for Uber, harassing at the top. Picks off an NG there and a radar. Gets entangled with the defending interceptors out for Nexus, which are very much more innumerate, but that's a nice bombing run. Picks up 3 entry kills there. That bomber pays for itself with a single bombing run. Is he going to get another one, though? He might just do it. Vulnerable engineers working on a radar. Yeah, takes out the radar as well. Lovely work from Uber. Even though he was outnumbered heavily in that portion of the map, air-wise, still manages to get work done, catching Nexus by surprise. Of course, if that radar had been online just a little bit earlier, that wouldn't have happened. And now he's going to get caught out again because of that last bomber just managing to clip it with its bombing run. Boom, baby! 3 more engineers bite the dust. This top position just getting pummeled right now by the T1 bombers. And now he's got another Magno back online, so he will have coverage. He needs to make sure he's paying attention because there's another inbound bomber on the way. Mantis for Nexus. Pouring into this section just north of the plateau there. How's this bomber doing? Strange, isn't it? Nexus is the one who's really made an investment in air production facilities, and at the moment Uber's the one causing all of the headaches from the air. Surely that won't hold for much longer. It just can't, unless of course Nexus is on the phone or something. Another engineer kill. Uber just being a bit brutal here, although kill loss ratio still with Nexus. It's just slightly. But I like this, and I like it a lot. Major investment into the naval game, and of course when you're going Cybran, start producing those Salems. They're just as useful on land as they are on sea. Transport laden with 6 engineers. Where's that headed? Gonna drop some more off down here, and then he's also gonna make a play, Nexus, over here having secured more or less the ground. He's having some problems in the sky from that one T1 bomber. But Nexus controls both of the corners now. The two land bridges onto the other side of the map. Uber trying to strike back with some amphibious units there. 3 Wagners hoofing it out underwater. Going to hit that little set of factories down at the bottom. That is not enough investment from Uber if he wants to win this. You can see he's got lots of naval yards queued up, but he is well behind Nexus, who already has 2 frigates and 2 subs in play, and a whole lot more factories on the way to boot. Probably worth Nexus thinking about sending those in now. Try and shut this down. Wondering if he's scouted that. Yes, he has. So we've got a few Sky Slammers, a couple of Mantis coming down the map here. 2 new factories online here, but a whole bunch of them queued up. Engineers just going crazy on land factory construction. This is going to be mass T1 spam coming in from every direction. Nexus just spamming out factories of every single type. The longer this goes on, the less comfortable I am about Uber's chances. T2 Nexus now, he's starting to lose valuable mass points. T1 bomber will help by taking out 2 of the Mantis. 1 remains. If he doesn't get it microed out the way, that will be a successful defense. Very nicely done indeed. Trying to push back. He's spammed up a lot of his own T1s over here. Wagner's terrorizing that little stronghold. It's not actually turning out to be that strong. That's going to be a win on the ground there, but the threat lies in this top left-hand corner. There's lots of T1 and T2 heading south from there. Upgrade on the way. It's T2. Nexus is asking if it's tele. Going for a tele snipe. Lots of power on the way. You could be thinking that's what it's go. That's where he's going. I'm guessing that's because Nexus is pretty comfortable about how far ahead he is, and that must be one of the only options he thinks Uber has open to him right now. It's almost insulting what he's implying there. And now the frigates sailing into this stretch of water where Uber's trying to get his naval yards completed and defended. Uber goes straight for sub-construction, a wise maneuver. Be wise as well for Nexus to put more of those in his unit mix. He's got 2 subs right here. Bringing some of his own in to counter it. Stealth upgrade on the way for Nexus's commander. Wants to make sure he's as hidden as possible in case that is a tele snipe. T2 almost complete now. Lots of air factories online. Spitting out groups of bombers, which he's now going to try and use to defend. That group of factories north of the main base, though, for Uber has been absolutely overrun. Both these guys neck and neck in terms of mass production. Reclaim Nexus is a good 50k, almost about 45k ahead. T3 upgrade started immediately. What on earth So he starts to scat this and then thinks, no, I'm not protected enough. He's putting all of his eggs in one very large, spiky, flying basket. That would be a bug. I'd be surprised if he manages to get that online. It's going pretty quickly, actually. 33,000 hit points. It's got quite a lot of ASFs in play as well. Let's take a quick ASF count, because these guys have advanced all over the place. Very good, quick time. So that's actually T1. So we've got 6 ASFs for Nexus. And Uber has 25, so a big advantage there. He's constructing more all the time. That bug's up to 50%. Probably should cancel that upgrade if he wants to get that bug completed. But the Wagners are starting to reach the base. Not in any huge way. It's just a couple of them that make it there. Oh, so many engineer casualties. Massive AoE on those plasma cannons. Going after the T3P gen. If that thing goes up, it's going to take a lot of engineers with it. It's collateral damage, but if he wants to stay in this with this unit, he's going to have to move it. Nexus taking fire from that new T1 PD. Alas, his attention is elsewhere. So Uber avoids catastrophic base damage for the time being, and he's actually managing to get Nexus to turn around with his reinforcements. It's a heavy group of reinforcements, and could do with chucking in some Sky Slammers or some T2 flak in there to try and counteract this bomber spam, which is the only way Uber's able to defend at the moment. But Uber, astonishingly, is able to complete the bug and immediately starts work on a Monkey Lord as well. This would be special if you could get something done here with the bug. Lots and lots of Corsairs massing over here. I'm guessing they were constructed in order to try and take down that horde of engineers working on the experimental. Where is he going? He's on the hunt for Nexus's Air Force. He wants to win a decisive air battle to give him cover to work with the bug. Micro him a bit better than that. Lots of interceptors absorbing some of that fire. And I'm going to say, ASF numbers look more even now. Nexus seems to have caught up and is getting a much better run of the airplay. It's going badly, very badly for Uber, who's coming forward with his Soul Ripper, but is now out of T3 air coverage except for the odd ASF that's coming straight from the base. His main base is overrun. He's on the run with his commander, and he control K's his comm. There it goes. Interestingly, that message comes up sometimes before the explosion and sometimes after. At least I'd like to have seen what that bug could have got done, but no, it wasn't going to be much. Look at that. Enough ASFs to shoot that puppy down. I think we did have some ASFs coming in from Uber, but I mean, it was only a matter of time. Unless he was going to completely destroy everything on this side of the map with it, he was going to lose. That position down here overrun by Wagner's, and just look at that stream of units coming in from the top left as well. So after drawing in the first game, Nexus takes game 2. And interestingly enough, of course, I'm guessing that if Uber was to take game 3, then that would mean that they'd have to have a decider. But game 3 itself is going to take place on Rigor. Is it Rigor 6? See, this is my problem. I don't wait for the thing to load. Rigor 6 Highlands. It's a 10k map, and the guys are jumping in. So let's go on over. And Obs wakes up. There we go. So you'll remember this one. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of this map. It's just a little bit too higgledy-piggledy. Too many little areas to stifle. Like, I'm all for choke points, but this one's kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's just... It's too lumpy. At risk of dumbing down things anymore at Guilecast. I know that's a tough ask at the best of times, but too lumpy. It's my issue with this one. Anyway, let's take a look at our players. Sticking with Cybran, it's Nexus. I'm starting to think that when I said Nexus is going his usual UEF in the semi there, was actually a misnomer. I don't even think Nexus is predominantly a Cybran player. Yeah, maybe, but here he is, and he's going first land, going second air. Core mass straight off the boot after that first land factory is online. And Uber back to his usual Seraphim, we assume, going first land. Both sticking with Fecal Brown and Mellow Yellow. And he's going land, second land, third air. We'll see which order that pops out in just a second to make sure that's alright. And that first air factory initially queued up there next to the Hydro. Might be something about his setup. No, he's going second land, third air. Interesting stuff. So he's gone land factory, mechs, and Hydro kind of at the same time. One T1 PGen, one land factory, then another T1 PGen, another T1 PGen, and then an air factory right at the end. So what do we have down here? Uber Yu Zhao, land factory, Hydro, I think it's fair to say, and then all of the mexes, then a PGen, then a land factory, PGen, air factory, PGen, land factory, PGen, land factory. So that's what we've got there for Uber. But it doesn't look like his comm is going to be a part of that now. He's pulling that straight out and heading out west. He's gone west up to the top. Well, it's not top left, up the far west. And there's 3 mechs is there. The core mass on this map only by 3s. No, there's a 4 in the base. So these patches of 3 are just kind of clumped expansion points. The other starting locations in a 4-player game over here, and the mirrored position over here as well. Another clumped set of mass obviously on either end up in the corners with those civilian emplacements to be concerned about. Mantis running off the conveyor belt and heading south with gusto and purpose, as you would expect someone in turd-coloured uniform to do. I'd be so gutted. People are going to think that I want the colours changed. I wouldn't. Don't ever remove this colour from the game if you're listening any of the powers that be in FAF. It's one of the great aspects of FAF. It gives me material, and it always makes me wonder about the people that choose the colour as well. I have to play my own little games about what makes them tick. Are they trying to be ironic? Do they really think it's autumnal? Do they have some massive scat fetish? Nexus will be happy about me saying that. Initial exchanges looking like it's going pretty well for Uber. Nice bit of micro though from Nexus. Not enough to turn the tables of that. It looked like a superior numerical force though from our Seraphim player. Nexus was looking like he was going to make a run down this way actually with a Mantis and a Mole. The Mantis heads back, the Mole carries on. Major mass to be had down here, of course, reclaim wise. 267 on board that crashed Alumna. So what do we got? 4 land factories online, 2 more queued up, 1 air factory in play for Nexus. It's an identical situation, bar 1 more queued up land factory for Uber. Very similar state of affairs. Both of these players expanding out to that position respectively, and that one. Uber being a bit more aggressive with his timing though, and he's out at the wreck over here already. Scooping that mass. Once he's finished that, I'd like to take a stock of the mass situation, but not before. We'll see where we are once he's had some reclaim time. Slightly different wreck over here, of course. Still 267, but this time it's a Starlifter. Crashed UEF-1. So reclaim-wise for now, Uber's got the better run. 2.2 versus 1.5k. That's probably going to change as he's now got an engineer up at that collection point. Generated eco. 4 mass advantage for Nexus, and that's been stable for the last couple of minutes. 25 to 21. 6.7k apiece. Neck and neck total generated eco, more or less. Expected to change. Cheeky little Mantis breaches the back line of Uber. Will get at least 1 Mex. Probably not more than that though, as Uber reinforces with a quick airdrop. Down it goes. Airdrop with an engineer that helpfully gets about rebuilding immediately. 2 armies sat in the center, both with predominantly T1 direct fire units, each with the odd piece of artillery. Zui and engineer dropped down to the back. Zui to take care of the plasma cannons. Engineer's actually going to get to work on an air factory, which is a nice place to put one. Why not? Well out of the way and out of respective danger. 37 mass apiece now on generated eco. Small advantage in total mass accrued, about 700 in favor of Nexus. Damaged Mantis getting away with it there. And it's more or less 50-50 apiece in terms of map control. Nexus airdropping to the cliffs with a Skyhook. We're going to get to work on that Hydro. 2 more Mexes over here up for grabs. Small column of FAMs rolling into this eastern position. Nexus, though, lying in wait with his comm. Residents. Another tangle in the center. Uber's gonna get together a reinforcement point, or rather a rally point over here. Complete just in time as well. Nexus will get a lot of engineer kills here, but he's going to lose a lot of units as well thanks to that PD completing. Will he hold on to the PD? Yes, he will. It's actually gone better for Uber ever so slightly, who's way ahead in kill-loss ratio. 2.17 versus 0.7274. Starting to get some defensive points online across the middle of the map, at least for Uber we are. Not seeing much of the same happening for Nexus. Uber being the more careful of the 2 players here, with the exception of how he treats his comm. He's just Ramboing it up over in the west. Don't you love it when they listen to what you say and then do the exact opposite just to annoy you? Game already happened, but there's such a thing as time dilation, right? That's a real thing. I saw it on Star Trek. Intel about to be cut down. Uber takes out a radar with his comm. Still a good read on what's happening in the center. This is now a big blank spot. Radar coverage in the middle there from that station. Airdrop heading to the east. Is that going for the plateau? Yes, it is, but there is a PD already online. Skyhook that brought the engineer up there got shot down by something, Recognizing the danger, he's going to go right over the top and land over here instead. Nexus nearby still, but he's on an upgrade, 26% on gun and speed. But look at that. Free mass, Nexus says, thank you very much. Shoots down that transport before it can offload. Uber assaulting Nexus's central forces with a large group of Zoes. Now we're starting to see some T2 units at 10.5 minutes. Nexus is the first one we spot, shooing away a small group of T1 over here. Uber nearby with his commander, though, should be able to pick up the rest of those unless they faint away and head up the western edge of the map. Once again, the forces in the middle tangle with one another. Intel gone in the center now for Nexus. Important to remember that's an unupgraded commander right there from Uber. 59 mass apiece. These guys still neck and neck in terms of eco. Nexus, massive advantage in terms of power, though. Going to have some massive air push soon. 23k. No, excuse me. See, got to watch out for that. I forget the power reclaim button. It cycles. He's actually only just ahead. I thought that was an awful lot of power at this stage in the game. He's just ahead, 1.2k to 1.1k. So about 100 difference. These guys very finely balanced in game 3. Nexus with that completed gun upgrade, strolling forward, still with that paper-thin Cybran commander. No tech upgrade to help boost the hit points. Cheeky little drop in amongst some rear T1 mexes over in the west from Nexus. Rhino targets the first one. Medusa hits outlying ones. Scout planes out from Nexus, who wants to get a read on what's happening. That's Uber's Air Force. He's going to switch up away from that. This is going to be problems now for Uber. Relatively even numbers of T1. Nexus turning up with his commander with that gun upgrade. Without access to overcharge, interestingly enough, but it should still be more than enough to tip the balance. Uber agrees and so drops back slightly. That Rhino still alive, still causing problems for Uber, whose eco has been relatively static now thanks to that little drop. So 56 versus Nexus's 67. Kill loss gone in favor of Nexus now, who's about 0.1 ahead of his opponent, who is way out up here with his commander, still unupgraded. Needs to be careful he doesn't get himself too isolated. And T2 gunship Renegade locked onto the commander now. This is interesting. He's carrying on this trajectory. He's probably going to have to walk through all of these Cybran forces. And remember, a draw here as well will be good enough for Nexus. And will complete the series essentially at 1-0 in his favor. Nexus either unaware of the position of Yu Zhao or still considers this to be his best strat. Uber recognizing the danger, seeing the commander dips back under the waves. Could he now be utterly cut off? If Nexus can keep these units online and maybe try and flush him out with a torpedo bomber or something. It's producing more gunships all the time. Looks like there's 3 or 4 renegades now on the field. Clutch pick up the top. Nabs a few of these Ilshivers that Uber was no doubt hoping to do major damage with, try and get a run by in, maybe even get into the main base, but he is way outdone on air power. Actually, it's pretty even, but he doesn't want to lose his air force going in to kill those. He knows Nexus is at least as powerful as he is, and having just lost that air fight at the game 2 on the ditch, probably being a little bit more cautious than he might be in other games. Gradually this force that was stationed in the middle is losing some potency. Now so interestingly enough, okay, so Uber makes it out of the pond, is heading due south to get towards his main base. Nexus comes through the pond himself in the other direction, joins up with this other contingent that's heading down the western approaches. And it looks like we're about to get a bit of a sandwich action. That's the best kind of action. Over here in the far left edge of the map. Uber locking those forces up against the corner of the map. But there are lots and lots of Cyberins, and a major air battle kicks off over here in the east. We were waiting for that. Uber locks onto those renegades, kills all 3 of them on the ground. That is a nice pickup, and I think he's going to lose the rest of his interceptors here. And he's fighting over the top of a couple of air defenses and some air flak on the other side belonging to Uber. Not going his way. He's now nearly 30 mass down, and gradually you see what was 50% right across the middle. Nexus encroaching more and more down all the different avenues. 2 more drops on the cards. Other skyhooks inbound, but not carrying anything as yet. More interceptors out. Needs to be very careful. Doesn't want to lose those transports, but he's not going to. That's a good fighter screen he's got guarding those. We're going to see some mad pickup of the forces down here and some crazy split drop in different locations. I do hope so. Oh, it's quite a few T2 there, but I'm sure Nexus could deal with it with a bit of overcharging, which he's got access to. That mini-map back online. I'm sure some of you would have been going out of your minds not having access to that. Now we've got some Corsairs for Nexus. Where's he going? Is he going after the commander? It looks like they're heading in that direction. Mantis right in the back now, in that back corner, that plateau. Uber trying to airdrop Ilshivers to defend. You would have thought that was the one most defensible place on the map. Nexus, a bit like Carlsberg, he's the Cyberin that reaches the parts other Cyberins can't reach. That's not Carlsberg, is it? No, that would probably be the best Cyberin in the world. What is that? What beer am I thinking of there? Why I don't want to talk about. I drink wine. Oh, lovely bit of air maneuvering from Nexus. It's just cleaning up. Needs to turn around though, taking unnecessary casualties as he pulls out. last-ditch push from Uber, maybe up the eastern flank. There are defensive emplacements though, and a Cerberus turret, which is lovely the way that's been placed. It's out the way. Unfortunate that this one bit of land is in the way, but how awesome that it covers up to pretty much the cliff edge. Uber recognises its shortcomings, though, stops right over the edge. Could get the odd Zooey in there, I'm sure. "20 minutes down." Uber desperately trying to re-establish something in the middle, working on an air factory. Corsairs whittling down the forces that are attacking in the east. Zooey's doing good work with the emplacements. But it's not going to be enough. You can just see how overwhelming it is from Uber's perspective. Too many rhinos, too many Corsairs, too many defences. It's actually taking care of most of the defences, but now there's a breach coming in through the middle. No prospect of expansion in the west, and there's the control cave for Uber, who capitulates in Game 3, handing a 2-0 win to Nexus. Very nicely done indeed, sir. So that was pretty awesome. So actually, it's not the end of the world, though, of course, for Uber. As we said at the beginning, both do still advance. It's just that, in theory at least, Uber should now get the slightly rougher ride going into the grand final. So if we take a quick look at how things looked on the actual standings table for Q3. There we go. So taking a look at some of these. So I'm sure we had some of these guys played twice in 2 different qualifying rounds. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but anyway, so they came through all the way through here. The games we've watched today, obviously, Sirtis Major. Uber defeats Nexus. Nexus drops down into the final loser bracket game against Blodir, wins that, comes back up, draws the first game on Settons, which isn't listed, then wins on Highlands, and wins on the Ditch, and then wins on Highlands. It's the Ditch isn't listed there, of course, because they weren't expecting to have that extra game, or at least in that format. I'm not sure what one. They're supposed to be best of 3, surely, so I'm not sure which one they would have got. Maybe the Ditch was only been listed afterwards as the 3rd game, had it been 1-1 or something. But anyway, that's the way they decided to do it. So probably what's going to happen next, guys, I might chuck another team game in there just to alleviate the pressure before we go for the grand final. I don't know. We'll see how we go. I do have the replays for the grand final. Very exciting stuff. But we will address all of that in due course. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. There's always more to come from me in the future. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, you can support me on Patreon. All donations very welcome. Help support me and the channel, and by extension the community. Thank you in advance for any kind donations, and of course thank you to everybody who's donated so far. You really are totally awesome. That's enough from me. Until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile signing out.